All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the green room. And tonight we're in the green room with Gary Schutz. Hey, Gary. You,
Hello.
you know, uh, in case anybody's watching and they know you, explain your hair and your hat.
Oh, okay. Well, I went to a great 50th anniversary Woodstock party in August, and my hair is kind of short, so I decided I definitely needed a wig, and I found this fantastic wig, and then the hat. I don't know. That's just seemed to work well, and so I'm thinking of just going ahead and growing my hair like this. I think it might take a few years, but yeah, I like it.
Well, I kind of like it. It actually matches the beard. It looks appropriate. Yeah. Yeah. I like the
And it
look.
feels kind of luxurious, you know?
Oh man. Well, it really it looks good. And I think I saw some pictures on Facebook of
Yeah,
you did that gig.
that's right.
So but let me get right to it though. You're feeling better now, and you were sick and you never were really diagnosed as having coronavirus, but you had the symptoms. We were talking a little bit before we went live. And what was that like? How long did it last and all that stuff?
Well, it lasted probably about 10 days, and it felt a lot like a flu, but it did have some strange symptoms that I've never run into before. I had the extreme fatigue, which I've had before with the flu, but I started out having a very upset stomach and lower GI, and it was unusual. It didn't feel like anything I'd felt before. And I went to the doctor, and she said, "Oh yeah, you've been eating too much spicy food and drinking too much hard liquor. So knock that shit off, dude." And so I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And she had me eat the bland diet, and it still bugged me for a few days, but I thought that maybe I was getting past it. And that's when the flu part kicked in, where I all of a sudden was just very fatigued and couldn't taste a damn thing. And I even put, my strongest cologne on, and I thought, if anything, if I can smell anything, it's going to be this, because this stuff is really strong. And I couldn't smell it at all. So I thought, what's up? And later I found out that's an indicator that it's the COVID-19.
Yeah. Did you have any trouble breathing or anything through all
I
that?
did, yeah. Yeah, and I had a friend that I think the friend that I got it from, a singer who I saw the Saturday before I started getting sick. She had said, take ibuprofen and use the albuterol inhaler. And the doctor gave that to me because he heard I was wheezing a few months ago. That's probably from all the weed smoke and cigars and all that. And but so I did. I used that inhaler and it helped, and then took the ibuprofen. So I never really got to the point where I thought, "Damn, I better get down to the hospital or I'm going to kick off."
Yeah. So there's been talk about ibuprofen not working and making it worse, but it didn't affect you at all. It helped, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'd heard from pretty much everybody except my friend that was sick. So I thought, well, I'm going to listen to her because she was actually being treated for COVID-19. Yeah. So I think, I don't know if it helped or not, but between the two things, I got relief from that. And so I never really felt like, oh man, I'm going to like die from respiratory failure while I'm sleeping.
Yeah. And
So it never got that bad.
and how long? So you've been kind of over it now for how long?
For about a week, although I still feel a little bit in my lungs. I still feel like they're not cool, and I still have a bit of a dry cough. But my energy's back, and I'm back to normal. And of course, I've been keeping a pretty low profile, trying to talk some girls into coming and meeting with me, but I haven't been successful with that. So
do you do you go out and take any walks or anything, or
yeah,
are people okay with getting out up there?
yeah, we've had good weather up here, and people have been out walking. on this trail by the Chambers Bay Golf Course. And yeah, some people were wearing masks, a lot weren't. And, you know, they're out exercising and staying fairly well clear of each other.
Well, so you're in Seattle. And in case I didn't mention that, Gary's in Seattle, and I haven't heard much about Seattle for a while because New York has been primarily in the news recently.
Right.
So, what's going on? Is there news, local news that you're watching that tells you how things are going up there, or is it take?
Yeah. It sounds like it may have peaked, but we're still having a lot of cases.
Mm.
Um, so I think, you know, we got ahead of the curve because we got hit first pretty much. And so we expect for it to die out sooner than in other parts of the U.S.
Is there any sense that people are going to be going back to work or anything soon, or is it you just feel like it's going to be a while?
I don't know. I think looking at what's happened in China, and that's if you assume that everything they're telling us is true, it seems like we're going to be on a trajectory to being able to go back to work. And of course, a lot of people really need to. So I know there's going to be a hell of a lot of pressure for us to get back to relatively normal. So yeah, I think it's we're kind of projecting May 4th, and I think that may happen. I don't really know, but that's my sense.
So we first met as musicians on Circus in 1981.
Circus Vargas.
Circus Vargas. So what were you doing before you joined the circus?
Um, I was hoping to join the circus as the bearded lady, so I was growing my beard out, and I was experimenting with padded bras and stuff. But
Right,
anyway, as it turned out, I got hired to play trombone.
right.
So, and that's kind of what I've been doing for a long time. So that was cool. But I was living in Reno and trying to get a show band gig, and I did get a chance to play with Sammy Davis Jr. for 2.5 weeks at Harris Lake Tahoe, which was probably the best gig I've ever done. Um, and but then the opportunity came up for Circus Vargas, and I thought, oh, that sounds great. Little did I know.
it was a, it had its moments.
Yeah.
It was pretty brutal. I had a picture. I had a picture of you sitting in a chair in a lawn chair and a can of beer outside of the motorhome that Kevin had. And
Yeah.
I've been looking all over for it. I think my daughter might have taken the pictures I had and hid them or something. I couldn't find. I wanted to show you this picture, but I mean, you had hair, and
Yeah.
it was dark hair. It wasn't long and gray like it looks now.
Right. I think I was 23 or 24 at that point.
Yeah,
Just had my hair pretty long.
it was that's God, that's 40 like 39, 40 years ago. So
Yeah. Amazing.
what did you move to Seattle right after that?
I did. No, wait a minute. Let's see. No, after that, I went back to Portland, which is my hometown, Portland, Oregon, and I went back to college, and then after that, I joined. After a couple of years there, I joined the Army band in Brooklyn, New York, and so I moved back to New York City and was there for a couple of years. And then after that, I turned 30. I had a midlife crisis, and I decided I needed to go work cruise ships and just kind of retire early because I had done cruise ships when I was 22, and it was really a lot of fun. A very relaxed lifestyle for the most part. So I decided to do that. I had an offer to go with Woody Herman, and I said no. I'm going to take this cruise gig. I sort of regret that now, except I had so damn much fun on
Right.
the cruise ship because I love, the beaches and the sunshine and the young girls, and it's just a killer combination.
Yeah, I nothing against Woody Herman, but if you wanted to have some fun and some good times, the cruise ship is definitely a little bit more the way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
what
then while working the cruise ships, I met a girl that lived in Victoria, British Columbia, and so I decided to move to Seattle so that I could keep seeing her, and that's why I'm here in Seattle.
Oh, how long did you do the cruise ships?
That time it was about 2 years,
That's a
and when I was 22, I did it for 1 year.
and did you so were you doing was that when was that? Like in the late 80s? I mean late yeah.
That was the mid 80s. That was 80, 86 to 88.
So at that time they were did they start to do those silly clip shows and stuff then, or were they still having a pretty much a full band?
It was pretty much a full band. I played in a 10-piece show band on one ship, but most of the other ships had 6-piece show bands. And one of the ones that I worked with had a pre-recorded show, but yeah, that was luckily that was before the advent of all that.
Yeah. What cruise line were you on?
Well, I started with Carnival Cruise Lines, and then I jumped over to Holland America um, for the second year, and I was doing 10-day cruises in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. So which cruise line had the best girls?
Oh, Carnival by a country mile.
Carnival Carnival was the party cruise line for sure.
It was. I remember spring break week in 1979, maybe 1980,
Yeah.
and just watching all these young girls coming on the ship, and I just, I'm surprised I didn't pass out from getting so excited. And as it happened, I actually met my true love, the love of my life, on that very cruise.
Really?
Mikel Verasso, if you're out there, you baby, that's you, darling.
Oh, have you seen her? Have you ever talked to her or
Yeah, I have. But she's married to a cat back in D.C.
oh,
Um, so yeah, we don't hang
yeah.
anymore. Plus, she went from having a unbelievably slamming figure to being kind of a butterball.
Oh. Oh,
So yeah, there's that.
yeah.
Ain't
Oh,
enough Viagra in town for that.
yeah. Right. So anyway, then you moved to Seattle and then uh you just been playing gigs around Seattle ever since, right?
Yeah, yeah, but also I've had a day job. So when I moved to Seattle, I needed a day job, and so I got one, and have always had one since. Um, and there was a point in time when I probably could have supported myself playing shows at the two theaters there, but I just felt that Seattle's an expensive town. You need to have some pretty good money rolling, or
Yeah.
you're going to be shuffling all the time.
Yeah, but it's a pretty good music scene there, and I know you were always playing down at Jazz Alley and some bands and doing some things. So you were able to make an okay living, right? I mean,
Sort of, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for a while, I was doing quite a few shows at the Fifth Avenue Theater, and maybe making 20,000 a year. And then I finally just had to quit doing those shows because it was too hard to do that and do the day job, the early get up and all that.
yeah. So, you were you doing selling insurance? Or what was your
I started out doing insurance processing, and then I got into claim adjusting, and that's what I still do now.
it are you still working? Are they having you work from home or are you working?
Yeah. Working from home 4 days a week right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Because
It's really nice.
yeah, the music scene is just there's nothing, right?
There's nothing at all. Um, but it is a good scene here. But there, in terms of horn players and singers, there is really a lot of talent up here because of all of the great schools, great high schools, and some of the great colleges in the area. It's pretty rough, pretty competitive, and of course the singers get a lot of the gigs because people love their singers.
Right.
So, and then comes sax. And most people, if I tell them I'm leading a band on trombone, they go, "What? Trombone is that one with the keys? No, that's the sax." Yeah.
So are there a lot of I know when I was in San Francisco, most of the work in San Francisco was weddings and some convention work, but mostly weddings. Not a lot of clubs. Are there a lot of weddings and that sort of thing up there?
Sure. Yeah. There's weddings, not very many bar mitzvahs. Those are kind of rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's club work, a lot of private parties. We got a big convention center and stuff. And then there's the two theaters that bring in shows, Broadway shows. In
Yeah.
fact, we even originated a couple of shows here. We originated Hairspray,
Oh,
and see, there's one other that I can't think of. We did a production of Hair though 2 years in a row, and uh, what a great play! That was just the greatest play. And I actually was wigged up like run of Hair. It was really funny. They
really?
gave me I kind of looked like Chewbacca because they gave me this big dark wig with a pronounced widow's peak, and it was really funny. And we were smoking fake joints on the stage, and that's just the greatest show.
That's great. I can see I can see did you do all the kind of big old bell bottom pants and stuff?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, yeah. I think I was wearing like a full length dashiki or something.
Oh, that's funny. Um, so I came up there a couple of times, and there was a period of time, and I had a lady that I started seeing up there. I was there a few.
Oh, was that Brunhilde?
Yes, it was.
I remember her. She had like one eyebrow, right?
Yeah, and
Kind of a burly gal,
yeah, yeah,
big shoulders.
yeah.
Yeah, she was something else. Brunhilde.
And we had a house in West Seattle, and but I did a couple of
Oh,
shows there, and
right.
and you came
Nurses.
the nurses.
Yeah.
We had a couple of good times with those nurse gigs. Do you remember?
Oh, we better not tell too many stories there.
Well, do you remember we got this one singer one year, and she got crazy. Do you remember? I don't remember what her name was, but she was big and she started just going off singing some tune, and it was scary. You remember this?
I do. I'm trying to think who that singer was. I do remember that though. Yeah,
I,
it was pretty wild.
I thought I thought I was going to get fired.
Yeah,
you know, uh,
yeah. I wish I could think of her name. I can almost see her doing that.
I can remember it pretty vividly, but I can't remember her name either. Um,
Yeah,
so, but then the last time we came, we had a really good band the last time, uh,
yeah.
and that was really fun. Uh,
We had the A team that time.
oh, that was really great. That was one of the best ones, and I only did it a couple years after that. Last year, uh, that the last year I did it, the lady that was then in charge decided the new lady was somebody who really liked to drink a lot, and she got really liquored up, and she came to me and said, "I want the band to start right now when people are walking in. I want you guys up there playing songs as people walk in." And I said,
Yeah.
that's never been part of the deal. "Oh, I'm disappointed that you won't do it." And I go, "No, I'm sorry. It's not part of the deal. We don't do that. The deal is we play after everybody walks in. There's canned music." And she got really mad at me. So
Oh,
the following year, which I think was last year, I got an email like in June saying, "We don't need you this year." Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay. I, I still have all the music. I have all the music right underneath in the drawer behind me. So
Oh, uh-huh.
I don't.
How many years did you book those nurse conventions?
It was about 26 years.
Oh my God! Wow.
It was a long time. And
Yeah,
and I think we did it 2, 3 times in Seattle. I know didn't every time you were
I think it was. I think it was twice. At least when I was contracting.
yeah, so it was just twice then because I would have called you anytime I was there. So it was just twice. I know I went to Boston 3 times. And
Oh,
Boston was the last one I did. That's when she
yeah.
really liquored up.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
when a lady gets liquored up and says, "I want you to start right now," and you say no, you pretty likely you won't get the gig next year.
That's right.
Oh,
Yep. We always have to kiss everybody's ass.
that's
But number one, right?
what's that?
Lesson number one, you always have to kiss the client's ass.
Yeah, as a band leader, I think the one thing that I always hated to do, but you as a band leader, you have to do it to make sure the guys get their checks, is if there's any idea that the client's going to screw you over, you got to really kiss their ass to make sure you get the check so you can pay the guy.
Yeah.
And
How many times have you gotten stiffed on getting paid for gigs?
uh, a couple of times, a couple
Yeah,
of,
me too.
and I always paid the guys anyway. The
Huh.
the worst one was one year. When you do weddings, wedding people always want you to put the names of the people in the band on the contract.
Oh,
Because if the whole band's name is on there, one guy doesn't show up, they can then say you didn't fulfill the contract, right?
oh,
So so I said I won't do that, but then this one lady said, I need to have the singer, I need her name on the contract because I want to make sure she's there. So I talked to the singer and we agreed we'd put her name on. True story. Her father actually had a heart attack, honest to God, and said, Jeff, I'm sorry, but I really have to go for
yeah,
right. So I go, okay, I got a sub. The people, even though they understood, the people still didn't pay me because they said I didn't fulfill the contract.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, so at times like that, I made them. I finally talked them into not paying for her, so I had to pay the sub, uh, the $400 or whatever it was I was paying the sub, um,
Yeah,
and it's just that whole thing is crazy in trying to hold your ground, but in order to get the check, you got to suck it. You got to just kick
yeah.
ass. I hate
Yeah.
doing that.
Have you ever heard of Mary Wells?
Yes.
She, yeah, she was a one-hit wonder, I think, or maybe two hits.
And
But nothing you can say will take me away from my guy.
right.
Something like that, right? So we had a 4-night gig booked at a place in Seattle, uh, and so that was cool. And we did the first couple of nights. It was Thursday and Friday, and the crowds weren't real good. This was kind of a big place, and so we were getting a little worried. And so after the Saturday night gig, the person that had hired all of us said, "Well, the receipts haven't been very good, and so we're going to have to give all the money to Mary Wells, and I'm going to pay you guys back as I can." And I said, well, that's not going to work for me. I'm going to have all the money before the Sunday night show, or I'm not playing. And so anyway, I showed up Sunday night, hour and a half early, and I said, "Well, do you have the money?" And she said, "No." I said, "Okay, bye bye." And I left. And I heard that a few of the guys got some money out of the contractor, but I never saw a penny, of course.
Oh, you know,
But I felt good about that. I felt good about saying, "No, you don't get to rip me off."
yeah, absolutely. Um, I for a short time in the early '90s, mid '90s, there was a mob boss that opened a club in San Francisco called the Coconut Grove. It was
Mm,
open for a couple of years, and they had hired me to do the house band. weeknights, and then they had another guy come in and do Sunday nights. And whatever act they would get, we would back the act up. You know, we did Robert Guillaume and Connie Stevens and those kinds of people. And
Hmm.
the wait staff who would get hired to do the job there would have to send their contract into Chicago. So
Hmm.
so he was hooked up. He was he's an Italian guy. He owned a couple of strip clubs in town, and we were supposed to have uh, who's the lady that was married to Vic Damone. Do you remember? Was it Diane?
I don't know. Diane Carroll.
Diane
No,
Carroll.
Cannon.
Yeah, yeah.
Carroll?
I think it's
Okay.
Carroll. She was supposed to come and do a show, and it was one of those things where no receipts. They weren't sold out. So while she was on the plane, I was the club owner called me and said, "We're canceling the show." And for no money, but I had hired all these guys, and in those days it wasn't hard for people to turn down gigs. There was enough work, enough clubs, enough casuals, weddings, that they would have to cancel gigs to do a week-long show. So
Yeah.
and this was like, we were supposed to open the next day, and he canceled it and said, "But I can't pay you." And uh, when she landed, I got a call from the manager and said, "I just heard the show is canceled." And I said, "Yeah, I found out too." So apparently he didn't pay anybody. And when I went to the band and said I would pay them and I would try to fight and sue for money, most of the guys said, "No, I don't involve me in any kind of argument, because we don't want to show up at the bottom of the day."
Yeah. Wow.
So they were afraid that he would, mess with us. So I ended up paying the guys as much as I could out of my pocket, and ended up just leaving him go. And like a couple years later, he died of a heart attack. So I suppose, when he would pay the band, though, this is the funny thing. When we'd have off nights and we were just playing, he always paid us in cash at the end of the night. And
Yeah.
we would play till 1, and I'd have to go up and sit outside his office and wait for his money runner to run to the strip club to get tip money to pay me in. So this guy named Eddie would come, and he'd pull out this stack of like wet ones and tens and fives and stuff. And it,
Oh my God, that is so funny.
he would pay me cash from the strip club, from the strippers. It was a hoot, man.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah. So are there there's none of that kind of stuff happening in Seattle, is there?
Oh, who knows? But I haven't really seen much of it. Everything seems to be pretty much above board,
Yeah,
but who really knows? You know?
right. See, Seattle always seemed to be a pretty tame, low key town. Not a lot of underhanded stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tacoma, which is where I live. I live in University Place, which is close to Tacoma. They've got more of a reputation of mob involvement, although I've never seen that. But you know, my late wife, who lived here for about 30 years, used to tell me stories.
Mhm. Eh, so when you do gigs now, what was the last gig you did?
The last gig I did, well, I was playing in a Monday night dance band. We rehearsed every Monday night, and then the last Monday night of the month, we did a dance at the local VFW. And so that was probably the last one. But I did a recording uh, with actually this woman is doing an album, and her name is Burmer, Glenna Burmer, and she's a rich woman. She's a doctor, and she loves to write music. So I did a gig with her about 5 years ago, and then she came up and said, "Yeah, we're going to do a Latin album." And so we did that at this wonderful studio. It was actually they've converted a church to a studio here in Seattle, and so we did all these Latin songs, and it was actually very fun. And one of them featured me on the trombone, um, and it was very interesting because I wanted to play it really expressively, like Andrea Bocelli or some,
Right.
just really like put my heart and soul into that shit. And so I did that once, and then she came and she said, I think less. And so I did it. I took out the vibrato and just dialed it back. And she said, perfect. And I realized right then she wanted to hear like a classical trombone player or even maybe like a French horn doing this thing. And so that was cool though, because she was happy and that's what matters, make the client happy.
Right. Is there much recording in Seattle, or are there a big like jingles, any of that kind of stuff up there?
There are some jingles, and there has been quite a bit of movie recording because there's this big, again, it's a church, it's a big chapel, and it just has a wonderful sound. And so these contractors up here will get hired to do a movie soundtrack, and they'll get all the people from the Seattle Symphony and then some other people. I've done several of the sessions. They pay, like $55 an hour, and you do a movie soundtrack. But I don't know how much of that is still happening. And of course, that made the Los Angeles musicians not like us there for a period of time because these movie makers were farming the soundtracks out to Sydney, Australia, uh, Canada, London. I mean, everywhere to
Right.
try to save money because the LA pay structure is so good. The LA union.
Right. Are you in the union musicians union up there?
I am in and out. It kind of depends on. I'm usually out because I don't do union work anymore unless, like for example, Frank Sinatra Jr. came up a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and he insisted that everybody in the band be in the union, and so we joined,
Mhm.
and boy, that was really a kick, Uh, he was doing a lot of his dad's arrangements, and some of those songs, I mean, it sounded like you were hearing Frank Sinatra Sr. And he was a very nice guy. He sat there in the whole rehearsal, 3 hour rehearsal. He had a table there, and he just kind of rehearsed the band or participated in it. And I just thought, this guy really has a class act.
Yeah. Was there an MD? Did you have an MD run it?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and they brought a couple of guys up from LA, like well, the whole rhythm section, and lead trumpet, and lead alto, and lead trombone.
Wow. Do you know
Yeah,
who were the guys from LA that he brought up? Do you remember?
uh, not really. No, and I didn't really know them except I knew the trombone player that uh, who used to play with Maynard Ferguson. Can't think of his name right now. Marvelous player,
Hmm.
and the lead trumpet. I think that might have been Rick.
Baptist?
No, but one of the big lead players down in LA,
Yeah.
and then the lead alto was another amazing player. I think it was Dick Oates.
Mm. Yes, but overall, the guy was probably paying less money up there than he
Yeah,
paid in LA.
yeah. But I thought it was great that he cared enough about the band sounding great to bring the heavy hitters in. Uh, and I've done a lot of shows with Natalie Cole and David Sanborn and some really, really big people where we used all locals except for the rhythm section. But not very many people brought up the guys from LA to play horns.
Right. So
So that's some money there.
Yeah, yeah. So when you do those shows, though, when you do those kinds of shows, um, where were they? Were they in the convention center, or were they in some of the theaters, or where would they do those shows?
Oh, typically the casinos, like the Frank Sinatra Jr. was at a casino, kind of out of town. Um, and then some of the ones, like the last big show I did was the guy that did Chances Are
Oh,
I Will Never Get a Gig. Just, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Johnny Mathis, right?
And Johnny Mathis, yeah. And he's in his, I think he's in his 70s now, and he still sounds really good. And
Really?
what a great guy! And he played the Paramount Theater in Seattle.
And is that a pretty good sounding room?
No, it's a terrible room. We've got we've got several theaters, and the biggest one is the Paramount, but it's such a wide auditorium that the sound just bounces around,
Oh,
and so it's terrible for the musicians and actually for the people there. I saw Miles Davis there in like around 91 or so, and but of course they were playing so loud that it balanced out. But that's not a great theater. The Fifth Avenue Theater is much better, and then we've got Benaroya Hall, which is the symphony hall, and it's excellent. It's designed like a shoebox, which is the optimal design, I guess, for a theater.
hmm.
So the symphony can do it without any amplification, and you can hear everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really amazing.
It's so. Is that a new building? That
Relatively new, yeah. It's probably 20 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty new for this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. You know what? A lot of places are trying to take old theaters and remodel them. That's happening down here. They're
yeah. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be uh I started helping this guy that does old doo-wop bands, and I'll bring all I'll advance the band to get all their backline and monitors and mics, and then I'll bring that and run monitors. And he'll have Little Anthony and the Imperials, and he had Blood, Sweat, and Tears book, but that got canceled because it was supposed to be June. And
Yeah,
a bunch of those old doo-wop bands, and he does them in these theaters that were have been remodeled and have really nice sound, and they've acoustically made them okay. So it's been more fun,
yeah,
but some of those old theaters weren't designed. They were designed to be uh, just people to be able to talk and be heard. You know,
yeah.
they weren't.
Acoustic, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't designed for amplified music.
No,
Yeah. So
yeah. We've got a couple of theaters like that up here, the Neptune and the Moore Theater. And the Moore Theater, I've heard a few great groups. In fact, I played there a couple of times, but I heard Chris Bodie there, and he just filled the whole theater. And mind you, it's kind of a small theater. He just filled the whole theater with his sound. It was fantastic. It's the best thing I've ever heard in terms of a trumpet or a horn being amplified. Um, yeah, that was great.
so let me ask you. So
Chris Bodie is quite a guy.
you like how he sounds, Chris Cody?
I do. I love how he sounds.
Yeah. Um,
He's
who
got a warm sound.
who's your favorite trombone player?
Well, I don't know because my tastes have changed over the years. I started out as a young bebop dude, wanting to play like a lot of notes like the beboppers did, and I was really into JJ and Irby Green and Carl Fontana and Frank Rossellino, and then I got into Coltrane and Woody Shaw and all that. But as I've gotten older, I appreciate melodies and harmonies more, and that's what gets me really happy. And so I like Bill Watrous and Dick Nash, and I love playing the ballad style, either the old 40s or 50s style, or the newer one with less vibrato or a slower vibrato. But I love doing that, and I that's kind of my thing, really. I can still play some bebop, but uh, I just don't do it much. Well, I mean, there's not much call for it too, so
Yeah. Are
it's a labor of love, really.
Yeah, are there still some rehearsal bands or bands that guys that get together and play some of all that stuff up there?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the band I play in on Monday nights, we do that. And I insist on the guy letting me play these feature charts I have. Like I've got a chart, a big band chart, "The Shadow of Your Smile," arranged by Henry Mancini, and it featured Dick Nash in the mid '60s, and just a beautiful song, and beautiful arrangement.
You know, kids today they don't really know what an old sheet music looks like. They're using all the iPad Pros now. You know,
Yeah,
what a chart? You got I got a box of charts. Yeah. Well, what? Paper?
yeah.
Right? So you
I,
you got a book of charts? I mean, how many tunes you got?
I do. I've probably got 8 or 9 trombone features. A couple of them I've had written for me, including that "Shadow of Your Smile." Uh, so that was, the chart was basically kind of adapted from Henry Mancini's arrangement. Um, yeah, but
Well,
but we're increasingly doing gigs, on the iPads and stuff, and I like that a lot. It's a lot easier to read because of the backlighting of the iPad.
right, right. And had I known that you had those charts the last time I was there on that nurse's gig, I would have had you bring one.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe the nurses will miss you and they will bring you back into the fold.
Well, I don't know. Well, at this point, they usually do their gig in August or September. At this point, it's
Yeah.
optimistic to think that August gigs will come back, by then.
Yeah. But they're going to need a rest really bad by then because I'm sure they're working really hard.
Man. Yeah, and those people too, the nurses were nurse anesthetists. Maybe yeah, they're probably thrown in there hooking up respirators and all kinds of things, man. They're getting their butts kicked right now. But
Yeah.
but what I'm hoping based on what you're saying is that the a lot of the it you're on the downside of the curve in Seattle. So are people a little more relaxed though now than before?
No, well, sort of, but not really, because at the same time they're getting a little relaxed, they're also getting a lot more conscious of being careful, and a lot of stores are enforcing a 6-foot rule, and a lot of stores like Costco and Trader Joe's, you've got to stand in line and wait to get in,
Right.
because the idea is they don't want to have too many people in there. And I've been wearing my mask and even my gloves, even though I think I already had the disease. I can't be sure because I didn't get tested. Um, and so, but a lot of people really are staying home and being good about it. And that's really what's chilling this thing out. Because let's say you get exposed to it tomorrow. Well, by what, 14 days or a little more, you're going to be done with that. And you might get real sick and you might not, but your body will fight off the virus, and you'll no longer be spewing the virus out to people. So by having everybody just kind of locked down like they're doing, it's really preventing the spread of it. And I think that's the key to success here, because it's one of those diseases. I was watching Bill Gates the other night. He's talking about, with Ebola, the Ebola virus that broke out in Africa was not very easily transmitted from human to human, but this COVID-19 is extremely easily transferred from human to human. So that's the big problem, is we're spewing it out at everybody. And I know exactly where I got it, because I was hanging with this band, and they ended up having three people in the band that got sick from it. And I shook hands with one of them and hugged another one of them, and you bet that's where I got it.
Right, right.
So I don't think anybody's doing that kind of stuff right now.
I was talking to some guys earlier today about the Midwest. They're still, there's a bunch of states that haven't, asked people to, stay home and shelter in place or anything, and there's people still going to churches and that sort of thing. So I think
Yeah,
it seems like this thing's going to roll across the middle part of this country, and they're going to get their butts kicked.
yeah, yeah. That's what'll happen. And anyway, what can you say about that, huh?
Well, in Seattle, the governor up there was doing a pretty good job of handling the crisis, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, he grabbed that shit by the balls and squeezed. I mean, he didn't. That guy didn't play around, and neither did the mayor in Seattle. So once they got the lay of the land, they jumped right in there with both feet, which was great. But they're smart people,
Yeah,
and they listen to the scientists, and they study, and they do like leaders are supposed to do. They know all this stuff, unlike our current leader who doesn't know anything and and seems to be kind of proud of that. Uh,
that's the
it's pretty amazing.
yeah, that's the scary thing is for somebody to kind of like, I don't care and kind of think it's cool to not care or not know or yeah, or say, well, it's not my job. You guys take care. Yeah, there's something about the kind of think it's cool to be okay to be that way that is a little,
Uh-huh.
mm, you know
Yeah, well, Americans are interesting people. We're very different from the Europeans and the Asians, and I kind of understand it. I was watching a marvelous TV series from the 1950s called The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. And I was watching that last summer and fall. And there's probably 220 episodes on Amazon Prime. And so I was working my way through it. And I just realized, Americans, for a long time, they're very independent. And they're and they pride themselves in that independence. They like that they own guns, and they like that they have these powerful cars that drive can go like twice the speed limit and everything. And they love these, of course, the big trucks.
mm,
And I mean, we are just a different culture than Europe, for example.
right.
Very different.
Yeah, and hard to rein in, hard to all of this is it's hard for us to sit here and not go out of our house.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I go out of my house, but my philosophy is as long as I maintain a 6 foot distance or I have my mask on, I'm not doing a damn thing wrong. And as a matter of fact, it hasn't gotten very much coverage, but we've got like an oil crash going on right now, and the source of that was Vladimir Putin. I don't know if you read about that when it first started,
No.
but Russia was working with OPEC, and OPEC, of course, they try to limit production to keep prices up.
Mhm.
And Putin said, "You know what? I don't want to do that. I want to ramp up production, drop prices, and try to put the Americans out of business because they're taking a really big market share." And I mean, he just said that.
Mm,
So basically, they once again are trying to mess with the U.S. And so, as far as my philosophy on that is, well, okay, I'm going to fill up my car and burn some gas because I don't really like the idea of the Russians wrecking our oil economy. I'm not a big proponent of fracking, but I just, I mean, I don't like to see, in particular, the Russians fucking with us.
right, right, yeah. Well, I don't mind paying lower gas prices. you know
What? Really? You don't?
I, I don't mind paying lower gas prices, but if I have to pay higher gas prices in order to keep everything stable for us, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Um, I my philosophy in terms of spending money. I just thought about this while you were talking. You know, I try to spend money in all the local mom and pop shops in my neighborhood. So
Uh-huh.
if there's a market that I can buy a loaf of bread at, I will go there before I go to a chain store. Um,
Okay.
there's a local bakery I always like to go to, and I always like to put my money back into my local community where I spend money. Um,
Yeah.
I try to do that as much as possible.
That's really smart. And when you see some of these businesses fail, I can every once in a while I'll see a business fail that I liked, and I think, you know what? I'm part of the reason he failed because I didn't go there as much as I should have. So that's a really good way to look at things.
Yeah, well, the unfortunate thing is, there. This is just an example. There's a new coffee shop that opened up on this. I ride my bike around town a lot, and it was called the Ugly Mug, and I stopped and talked to him, and they were ready to open, but they didn't open for like 3 or 4 months, and he said that while he was waiting for his license to open this store, the city passed license for big like Walmart and different, big companies like that to come in, and they weren't necessarily supporting him. He finally got his license and everything, and uh, got was able to open his little coffee shop. But I want to do everything I can to support him. But city and other places don't really want little stores to stay open, and this now is going to make a lot of those little places go under because they're not making
Yeah.
enough money. So
Yeah, it's very sad.
yeah, that's the sad thing about it is the only people that may survive this as this goes on are the bigger chain stores.
Yeah.
You know, uh, the government isn't going to step in and fund all those mom and pops. They say they're going to fund them, but it ain't going to come to them. I don't think.
Yeah, probably not, or probably not enough.
Right.
It's like they're going to send people like you and I out a check for 800 or 1,200 or whatever, but you can't even pay a month's rent with that. So
Yeah.
it's not that I mind getting the money, but it's not going to be a solution.
No. Yeah. Definitely not. um, Now, is your salary with your day gig, is that cut back at all?
No,
Okay, so that's good.
yeah, it's really good, and we've got enough work that I don't think I'm going to get laid off, but it's possible. Who knows? I'm not worried about it though because I'm planning on retiring this year anyway. So
Really?
either way, I'm okay. I've made it almost to the finish line now. Actually, I was going to retire over a year ago, and I just kind of decided to put the brakes on it because I didn't know what my girlfriend was doing. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. Very interesting story, but we probably don't have time for that here.
Just give me a brief picture. Are you still with her?
No, she we did some counseling, and as a result of the counseling, I said, I don't want to be a couple anymore. I love you like a sister, but I don't want to be a couple with you
Really?
anymore. And so, uh, told her, I own the house. So I told her, in a couple of months, I'm probably going to sell this thing. And so I'll need for you to figure something out. And so she took a job that she had been working on taking for quite a while. It's a lucrative job, but it's out of the country. And
Mm.
so she went ahead and did that, and she's out of the country somewhere, making very good money, and we're friends and we talk. But yeah, now it's just me. I don't even have a cat anymore.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just me and my internet.
Well, and right now me, and I'm sorry. But
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, this is really fun. I'm really enjoying getting a chance to just sit here and shoot the shit with you. This is great.
it is. So that the whole idea of this was for me to like if we were before a gig, if we were sitting before a nurse's gig, this is the same kind of conversation we'd have. We'd just be sitting talking about shit,
Yeah,
right? So
that's right.
that's why I decided to call this in the green room, right? Because
Mhm.
this this is how we'd be talking before a gig. And
Yeah,
the beauty, if there's a silver lining in everything that's happening, is we actually have time, and it's given all of us time to reconnect in a in a way that we normally may not have been able to do.
that's right. Yeah, I've talked more with my old buddy Kevin Esposito in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 months because he's had more time on his hands, and so that's kind of fun.
If
But I got to get out of the house. I went. I take drives. I mean, I go. I'm not gonna be stuck in my house, but I am going to be safe about
right,
my hanging out with people.
yeah, yeah. Well, what my daughter's for this is kind of a funny story. So my daughter's 14, right? And
Oh,
she's my youngest is 14. And
yeah.
um she's supposed to be able to get her license. So now that nobody's out driving, last week I take her out and I let her drive around town, and there's nobody on the streets. We pull into this grocery store parking lot, and I have a Mustang. I bought this kind of new Mustang, which I'm not making payments
That's
on.
right, the red one, right?
Have you ever read one?
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Oh,
Is that a GT?
it is a GT. And
Oh man, you are the man, bro.
dude, I feel it. It's definitely it's man, it's a mean machine.
Manual tranny.
No, it's an automatic, but it has
That's
it has one of those things where you can shift manually with buttons.
yeah.
So, but it's fast. It's fast as hell.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're driving around this parking lot, and I'm letting her drive, and she goes, "Well, I'm going to turn in here." And then she took this hard kind of like in this big open parking lot, she found the one thing to hit.
Oh no.
Oh my god. It wasn't hard, but the front end crunched into this kind of light pole, the base of a light pole.
Oh damn.
And I was like, no, no. Oh. I got out and I looked, and there's a little scratch of paint. It wasn't really bad.
Oh,
I mean, I'd done the
good.
same thing, but she felt really bad, right? So I
Yeah.
so I made her drive home. And then she didn't want to drive. No, you're going to drive home right now because I don't want you to think, now all of a sudden be afraid of driving.
Yeah.
But that's what we've been doing at nights when there's nobody out. We drive around, but I'm staying out of parking lots now.
Right. Oh yeah.
I don't,
I thought you were going to tell me that she did like a burnout or started doing some cookies.
no, no, it's easy to do, man.
Yeah.
On those Mustangs, the back end is really light, and
Yeah.
it's got so much power that if you just barely push it, the back end just
Yeah.
go, man.
Yeah. I've got a 2017 Camaro with the V6, but it's 335 horsepower. So I can light those babies up whenever I want to, which I don't do very often. Tires are expensive.
Yeah, yeah, but they're fun to drive, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah. It's a great road car. It's just, I had it up to 115 a couple weeks ago. I was going down to Portland and the traffic was kind of light. And I just decided, I'm just going to do this and got up there pretty fast. It really didn't take long.
and when you
I
get
love speed because I took a high performance driving course back in 2004 and 2003, and I ended up doing these track days on road courses where you drive basically like you're racing, except you only can pass on the straights. So you do safe racing, but you drive as fast as you dare. And so I got really used to, I got really comfortable driving like 125 miles an hour.
Wow, Gary, your mic just went goofy on me.
Uh-oh. Maybe
What?
I'm talking too loud.
I don't know. It just went goofy.
Oh no.
So I
Well,
can.
maybe the producers cut us off.
Well, we actually are right at 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
But
I
yeah,
thought this was 3 hours.
what's that?
I thought this was 3 hours.
Oh, three.
I thought this was 3 hours.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like all of a sudden I can hear you, but it's barely. It's like it froze up, and your phone just froze up. Can you still hear me? Oh, oh man, this is bizarre. It's like 1 hour and we just freeze up. I don't know if anybody's still watching, if Gary can even still hear me, but this is kind of a hoot because literally at 1 hour the phone froze. Oh,
Okay, I think I'm back. Yes,
you,
I'm back.
you're back. The voice still sounds funny,
Oh,
but I can still see you. So maybe it's a good time for us to like go, hey, thank you for joining me on the show, kind of thing.
it sounds good because I'm out of whiskey, so yeah, let's stop it. I thought this would last me more than an hour, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, this is great fun, Gary. I love the wig. I love the hat. I love that you had a glass of whiskey, and thanks for telling me and reminiscing with me.
Yeah, well, anytime. It was really fun. Thank
All
you.
right. I'll call you again. Maybe we'll do a three-way call with Tom Politzer. And we get Kevin. It'll be fun to do it, talk with all of us.
That would be very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff.
All right. We'll see you again soon. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye now.